Welcome to This Explainer. Right, today we're getting into something totally fascinating and honestly kind of unspoken about human behavior. We're going to unpack the tragic irony of the highly agreeable man. You know the type. The guy who follows all the rules, never makes waves, literally bends over backward to be helpful, but still finds himself entirely ignored by the world around him. So if you've ever felt like you're doing absolutely everything right, but somehow getting the completely wrong results, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to the breakdown we have for you today.
Let's start right here with the invisible man. There's a guy in your life right now, maybe it's someone you know, or let's be real, maybe it's you, who just says yes to absolutely everything. He agrees when he really doesn't want to. He laughs when the joke isn't even funny. He literally shrinks himself in a crowded room just to avoid making anyone else uncomfortable. But here's the stark reality presented in our source material. People pick up on that. They sense it. They might not be able to name it, but they feel the hesitation. And what happens? Slowly, quietly, they just stop taking his opinion seriously. They talk over him in meetings. Plans get canceled at the last minute. The brutal truth? They don't hate him. They just don't see him.
Okay, part 1, navigating the dominance hierarchy. Let's dig right into the underlying science of why being super polite and endlessly helpful can sometimes backfire so incredibly badly.
To really understand this, we have to look at a psychological concept called the dominance hierarchy. Now, I know it sounds like a term straight out of a nature documentary, right? But it applies to every modern office, every friend group, literally every dinner table you've ever sat at. This isn't about people being intentionally mean. It's actually an ancient survival mechanism, hardwired right into our brains. In a fraction of a second, humans are constantly evaluating and sorting each other. We're figuring out who leads, who follows, who is strong, and who seems uncertain. Because thousands of years ago, following the wrong person could literally get you killed.
And this perfectly illustrates the massive disconnect. We tend to think people are judging us based on the words we use or how incredibly kind we are. But the human brain, it's actually doing this instant sorting based on how you carry yourself. It's tracking how long you hold eye contact. It's listening to whether your voice drops with certainty at the end of a sentence or if it creeps up slightly, kind of like you're asking a question. It's a brutal reality, but men who are just trying to be liked accidentally broadcast uncertainty, neediness, and fear through their body language and tone. They have no idea they're even being evaluated, but the brain sitting across from them instantly registers weakness.
Now, let's be super clear. Weakness is absolutely not about being physically small or quiet or introverted. Take Marcus Aurelius, the legendary Roman emperor. The guy was famously soft-spoken. He was deeply emotional, wrote a private journal he never even meant for anyone to read. But absolutely nobody in his presence doubted him for a single second. Why? Because of his absolute certainty. He knew exactly what he believed and exactly what he would not do. You see, weak men make people nervous not because they're dangerous, but because they are completely unpredictable. You just never know where they actually stand, and the human brain simply cannot respect a wildly unpredictable person it can't read.
So the huge takeaway here is that genuine respect comes from a specific quality called personal gravity. Think about those people who just command a room without even trying. They aren't the loudest, they aren't the flashiest, but the second they speak, everybody listens. If they set a boundary, it never has to be repeated. That is personal gravity, and it's a trait you only develop when you finally stop putting on a performance to manage how other people see you. It doesn't come from trying to impress the room, it comes from genuinely, truly not needing to.
Just look at this painful gap. On one side, you've got the completely exhausting performance of the people pleaser, constantly shrinking, expanding, and adjusting his personality based on whoever happens to be in the room. And eventually, that constant adjusting just becomes who he is. But on the flip side, you have the rare, deeply grounding consistency of a respected man who knows exactly who he is. He's the exact same guy in every single room. And that consistency is incredibly rare and instantly recognized by the subconscious minds of everyone around him.
Section 2. 3 structural changes. So how do we fix that exhausting, low-level rage of being a people-pleaser? We're not doing fluffy, positive affirmations here. We are implementing a practical, mechanical guide for your daily life.
Here are the 3 clear structural changes you must make to actually develop personal gravity. These are the mechanical steps to earning the self-respect that lets you navigate that modern dominance hierarchy effortlessly.
Rule 1. Stop explaining. This first step sounds super simple to understand, but man, it is incredibly challenging to execute. You have to stop justifying your existence and start building the muscle of silence.
Notice the pattern here.
Guys who lack personal gravity constantly over-explain. They justify every single move. They add all these qualifiers or they pre-apologize. Literally apologizing to a chair they just bumped into. All that does is brace for rejection before it even arrives. It basically tells the room, hey, I don't even believe I have the right to my own opinion. But strong men, they simply state their decisions clearly. They don't need a committee to agree with them to feel valid. The next time someone questions a choice you've made, do not build a massive court case to defend yourself. State it clearly and let the silence do the heavy lifting. The discomfort you feel in that awkward silence is exactly the muscle you need to build.
Rule 2. Embrace disappointment. Honestly, this introduces the hardest change of all. It's about dismantling the absolute root of almost all weakness in men, the paralyzing fear of disappointing someone.
We really need to pause and ask ourselves, why does this fear operate on pure autopilot? For a lot of guys, it's so baked in that it makes decisions for us before our conscious mind even has a chance to get involved. Why are we so terrified of someone just being disappointed?
Well, usually this fear locks onto specific figures in our lives. A parent who you could never quite satisfy, a demanding boss, a dominant partner, or a loud friend. Over time, those dynamics subconsciously train us to make ourselves smaller just to keep the peace. We literally sacrifice our true identity, our boundaries, and our needs all for this cheap, fleeting sense of external approval. And before you know it, that constant adjustment becomes your entire personality.
But here is the real game changer. The men who command the most respect are genuinely willing to be disliked. I don't mean they're cruel or totally indifferent. They are just exceptionally clear. When you can say no without instantly drowning in a wave of guilt, and when you can hold your ground even when the entire room is shaking their heads at you, something incredible shifts in that dominance hierarchy. You suddenly become a guy who cannot be manipulated. The world intuitively feels that boundary, and people immediately begin treating you differently. Being completely willing to disappoint others, that is the absolute bedrock of lasting respect.
Rule 3. Build your mission. This is the final structural change, and it's what gives the first two their actual foundation. You absolutely must build something that matters to you, and you have to protect it fiercely.
Think about it like this. Men without a core mission. They just orbit other people's lives like satellites. They wait around for someone to hand them a role. They constantly seek validation just to know they even exist. But respected men are moving forward. They have a clear direction. It doesn't have to be some grand, world-famous quest, but they are building something. And having that forward momentum gives their entire life a rigid, undeniable structure.
Because when you don't have a mission, you are constantly walking into rooms, silently asking, am I enough? You perform for others, hoping they'll give you a thumbs up. But when you dedicate yourself to your own direction, your own goals, and your own standards, the work itself finally answers that lingering internal question. It completely removes your need to chase approval, because you're no longer outsourcing your validation to whoever happens to be in the room. Finally, Part 3. The cost of staying small. As we wrap up this explainer, we have to look at the mechanics of respect and the incredibly steep price of clinging to that old, safe, agreeable version of yourself.
Listen, this isn't about hype or motivation. It is purely mechanical. You don't pay the toll for weakness all at once. Nope, you pay it slowly, quietly, over decades. You pay this price by watching guys who are absolutely no smarter or better than you walk effortlessly through doors that just stay locked for you. And why did those doors open for them? Simply because they held their word in the dark. They walked into rooms without needing the room to tell them they belonged there.
I'm going to leave you with this haunting reality from our source material to deeply consider today. Are you willing to face the temporary, awkward discomfort of disappointing others to finally step out of your own invisibility? Because the absolute truth is, the world doesn't actually punish weakness, it just forgets it. Take these 3 rules, build your personal gravity, and step into the space you were always meant to occupy.